Hey, what's up, Nerf Nation? It's your boy Normatico here, and today we are looking at a new blaster. Yes, this blaster's actually only been on the shelves for about a month now. It was announced earlier this year, and it is part of the Nerf Zombie line. Now, yes, you heard me right, the Zombie line, as opposed to the Z Strike or the Z Strike or the Zombie Strike line. That line is now officially quote-unquote dead, and it has been resurrected as the Zombie line. The difference between the two lines, of course, is that the Zombie Strike or the Z Strike or whatever the heck you want to call it. It didn't have any skins on it, so to speak, but had some really cool detailing. In a lot of the hobbyist point of view, the Zombie line was peak gimmick blasters and kind of fun. You had some really cool blasters that came out of that, such as the Slingfire, the Scavenger, and the Hammer Shot, which are all three legendary blasters in my opinion. The Zombie line, though, they did something a little bit different. Rather than sticking with the actual molded plastic, they went more of a skin look, and we'll look at that today. So far, there have been 3, I believe, releases. There's the one that is the little baseball bat thing. They did a reskin of a Hammer Shot, which was kind of weird. And then now they have the Corruptor. Now, the Zombie line did launch back in December of 2023. A lot of people tend to think that it was 2024, but I actually saw the actual, I think it was the Hammer Shot reskin. I'm trying to remember what the name of that is. I think it's like the Needler or something like that. That was actually out on Amazon December 2023 in time for Christmas, and it retails around $19.99 or $22.99 depending on when and where you buy it. The Corruptor itself, though, that actually launched back in April, and it is $24.99 in Walmart. That is the only place I've seen it so far. Of course, I'm sure that's going to eventually launch in other places. Now, I will tell you that if it's not in your actual store shelves yet, just wait a little bit. The Walmarts have been notoriously slow for getting product out on the shelves, such as what has happened with the Nexus Pro X and the Aeon Pro X launches, where some stores had them on the shelves almost immediately, and other ones didn't have them on the shelves until about a month and a half after. Now, looking at this blaster, I can tell you this is a blaster that is made in China. It says so on the box, and it comes with 22 of the green-on-green zombie darts. Now, one thing I'm going to point out here, it's a little point of contention with me and a lot of other people. If you read right here, it says it comes with an 18-dart clip. Now, I frankly don't care. The point of contention comes from other people that always correct me whenever I say it's a clip. No, it's a magazine. Yes, I know, it's a magazine. But it says it right here, a clip. So forgive me if I reference it as a clip because that is what the mothership is referencing as right now. The 18-round magazine, clip, magazine, whatever, it is a pretty standard size nowadays. You know, of course, back when they started the launch, they only did 6 rounds. Then they did something a little bit larger, like a 10-round, then a 12-round, and then they jumped to the 18 rounds. So an 18-round clip or magazine is pretty decent. Only thing that would be better, in my opinion, is if they actually made it a drum magazine, but I digress. Let's go and actually open up this box and see what this blaster looks like. Okay, first thing I'm going to point out is that this box, it is not frustration-free packaging. You have these little plastic strips holding everything down. Let's get my scissors out and start cutting. Ugh, I put tape everywhere. Gone are the days when they would just make a box easy to open. Okay, all right, so we have our box open. Of course, you have your instructions right here, which no one really reads those. You have the clip magazine, which is actually cool. It has the zombie logo right there. I think that's kind of neat. And it does have molded plastic here that looks kind of neat. I'm digging this. I'm digging this. You have a bunch of darts, and well, that's what I was afraid of. Plastic bolts, that's disappointing. I'm only going to put one of these because if I want to upgrade the spring, it's kind of pointless to use both. So we're going to just use one for now. Get our darts out. Looks like I forgot one set of plastic here. And then we have our blaster. Now, the box design itself, okay, you know, it's not as playful as the original Zombie Strike line was, but it's all right. You know, they're making an effort, I guess. So, looking at the blaster itself, as you can see, there is some molding here, which is really nice. And then you have the skin itself. I'm not a big fan of the skin, I'll be honest with you, only because of the fact that that makes it it's less appealing. And if I wanted to actually paint this to make it look more apocalyptic, I guess, it's going to be a little bit more work because the paint actually has a weird little texture to it. So it's going to be more sanding and more of that. Now, you do have some clear parts here, so if you actually want to do some lighting effect, that might be really cool. Maybe install some green lights here. And I don't know how you would actually activate that, but that would be pretty cool. Then, of course, you have these weird little effects here on the barrel. Now, you have the location where you actually put your priming bolt. Let's take a look here. This is the pretty side. I'm actually going to go ahead and put it on the left side, only because of the fact that whenever I do unscrew the blaster, it's going to be from this side. So that just pops in, and once you pop it in, it is difficult to pop out. Of course, there is a method that you can using a flathead screwdriver where you just pull it in there, you wiggle that around, and that should eventually just pop right out without breaking anything if you are lucky. Now, I do want to pay close attention to here. It does actually come with dart storage on the actual blaster itself, on the buttstock. It can hold 6 darts, 3 on either side. So you have 18 rounds in the actual magazine, and then 6 on the actual blaster itself. So the blaster itself comes with 22 rounds. So in reality, you're going to be able to get 18 plus 4. I wish they would have actually included 24 so you could load up the entire blaster and have it look fully stocked and ready to go. You do have 2 tactical rails, one on top, one underneath here. So if you wanted to install one of the lights that came with like the scavenger or something like that, you could go ahead and do so. And you could put some sort of scope up here as well. But other than that, there's no other tactical rails that I can see here. I might install a Picatinny rail so I can put a camera mount on this thing later on. Maybe put the camera mount right up here on this side, because I do have enough of a worker Picatinny that I could actually just put right there. Yeah, that would be it. Or maybe even, no, that would get in the priming handle way. Huh. Well, we'll see what I can do with this thing. Alright, so for display purposes, I want to actually load up all the darts in the stock itself and didn't put as many in the magazine as it can hold. But all in all, I can tell you that this blaster does feel a little bit weird in my hands. It feels like it should be a little bit longer than what it is, only because of the fact that right here, that just, I don't know, it's not very comfortable. But again, this is made for kids, not for an adult, so I can forgive that without a problem. Again, what's not forgivable, in my opinion, is the plastic here. If this is a toy indeed for kids, which it is, kids are abusive with their toys. So having a plastic bolt mechanism like this is a recipe for disaster. I can't tell you how many of these that I've purchased, not of these necessarily, but how many of the blasters that have the plastic little bolt sleds I've purchased where they've been used and the plastic bolt is about to fall off because a kid has bent them, they've stored them improperly, and those bolts break relatively easily. So really, Hasbro, come on. I get it. You want to make money. You make money on people buying new blasters and having to do repeat purchases. let's not annoy the fan base, because eventually they're just going to stop buying the product itself. That, or they will switch to blasters like Worker or any other Dart Zone blaster that uses a priming mechanism that is not going to break on them. So if you actually want to keep your portion of the market share, do better. Seriously. Now, that being said, loading it, of course, as usual, you must prime, pull the thing all the way back in order for it to load, and then now this blaster is ready to fire. So the stock itself, it's could be a little bit longer, but again, it is made for a child. I can forgive that. And the ergonomics on this blaster are not the greatest. Even feeling in my hands, this grip is just not, it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable at all. You actually have the molding right here, where rather than having a couple ridges, you have one really large one and then one little thing here that's like a band, and it feels awkward in your hand when you actually grip it tight. Of course, if you have a smaller hand, that's going to be a little bit different. The mag release, it is right here on the actual trigger itself, which is kind of nice because that way you just go boom, and then you just push upwards with your finger when the blaster is primed, and you pull on the actual magazine to take it out. So that's kind of neat. I'll dig that. Of course, you do have some really cool decorative pieces here. You have this little gauge here that is not functioning. That is something that if I were to paint the blaster, I might actually cover up because I like the effect that it has here. Or I could always go buy an actual tire gauge, mount it on here with some putty, and make it look even more realistic. I'll be honest with you, this looks like something that I designed with a night finder at one point in time when I tried to steampunk it. You know what? Let me show you a picture of that really quick. Anyways, so that is what you can do with when you get creative. Now, we're actually going to run this through the chronograph really quick. Let's see if it hits the elite standards of 70 feet per second. I'll be surprised if it gets in the high 60s, but again, it is a gimmicky blaster. It's meant for fun. And other than that, you know, with 18 rounds, this actually might be fun for like an HVZ game if you put a more advanced spring in there, because it does look really cool, and I like what they're trying to go with this line. So yeah. Up next, the chronograph test. And now for the accuracy test. We are about 27 feet away from the target basket with the corruptor. I'm going to actually go ahead and prime this now, load it up, fire 10 shots down the hall, and see how accurate this blaster can be. Of course, these are standard elite darts, so I do expect some deviation. I will adjust my ratings based on that fact alone. So all in all, not bad. Only a few of them actually hit the basket itself, which is what I was aiming at. However, they all were within about an inch of hitting that basket. There were a couple that swerved towards the end and actually hit to the right of the basket, and a couple that went just above and just below. So all in all, the accuracy is there. Now, one thing I'm going to point out about this blaster that I didn't notice it before is that there is not an iron sight to speak of, nothing that you can actually target with the rail. So you are doing a best guess just based on the actual gap in the rail itself. This needs to be elevated a little bit more for you to actually get a center point on the rail. So that's kind of a fail. I'll be honest with you, you definitely want to add some sort of scope or a sight onto this top rail. Up next, the distance. we're out in the parking lot range. We are dealing with 31-mile-an-hour wind gusts, steady winds of 20 miles an hour. I'm going to see how far this blaster can actually fire. I'll be right back with those numbers. So we got a straight shot of 65 feet and an angled shot of 110 feet, but keep in mind that is with a 30-mile-an-hour wind that was blowing those darts, so those are not your usual numbers. Up next, my final thoughts regarding the Corruptor. And I am back with my final thoughts regarding the Nerf Zombie Corruptor. So it's a solid offering. I'll be honest, let me start with that. It is a very solid offering for the zombie line. I like the way it actually performs. The accuracy on it does, well, I was using fresh darts, so obviously that's going to be changing a little bit when you start to use used darts. However, one thing that I do not like is the lack of a proper sight mechanism. As you can see, that does not line up with anything. This is too flush down right here. This part needed to go up at least a couple of millimeters, maybe a centimeter, so that we actually can target with the actual tactical rail. So you are going to need to put some sort of sight or scope on here in order to properly sight it. Of course, if you can trust yourself and you have a decent aim, you can just use the two, and then I guess there's that little nub in the middle that you can use as a centerpiece. But that said, it's a little bit of oversight on Hasbro's behalf. Now, there are other things that are wrong with this blaster, and some of them that are kind of unforgivable in my opinion, other than the sight thing. Obviously, if you're a kid, you're playing with this, you're not going to be using this for competitive play, so there's that. Here are the parts that are unforgivable. Now, we all know, as I said earlier, kids can be pretty reckless with their toys. This being plastic is a stress point that, I'm going to be honest with you, it is going to break. Eventually, that will break off, and you're not going to be able to prime this blaster. So they really need to stop doing this. They did that with the Fortnite series. They did it with the Alpha Hawk. Again, I can't tell you how many Alpha Hawks I've seen at a Goodwill where that peg has been snapped in half, and that's probably why it got donated, was because the kid broke the blaster. So obviously, if your kid takes good care of their toys, that's one thing. But we all know that kids in general do not. These things get dropped, they get pushed up against things. That is going to be something that could be snapped off easily or bent or messed up. And then you're going to be out $25 because the kid's going to be like, Mom, Dad, my blaster broke. Can you get me a new one? And obviously, being a good parent, you're going to be like, oh, okay, fine. I'll have to go get another one. Unless you want to be a hard ass like myself, then you're like, well, you broke it, so tough on you. I'm not that hard on G-Rex, but you get the point. Now, other than that, the other thing that I have against this blaster, and G-Rex agrees with me, this stock is just a little too short. So given how long this blaster is, this stock needed to be at least a few more inches longer, and then that would have been fine. But as it stands right now, this is really short, even for him, even for an 11-year-old. This is kind of short. It's not comfortable for him to hold. The other thing, like I said, this hand grip right here, it's not comfortable for him either, only because of the way that this is actually elevated in the back, and at the front, it's just weird. It is weird, but that's part of the aesthetic. I get it. It's supposed to be pieced together. What it has going for it? The design itself, I'll be honest with you, I really like these little elements that they have, these accents. They look really neat. I love the clear plastic molding here and here and here, as well as even in the handle as well. So it's something that if you wanted to put some lighting effects in there, that would be really cool. I dig the entire vial look that it has going on here, and if you pay close attention to the magazine, you can see that they mimic the vials there as well. So that's kind of neat also. But what I don't dig about the design, and again, they've made good improvements. This is me being very picky, and it's something that is, how can I say this? I'm kind of a elitist when it comes to paint jobs now. I'm not digging the skin. This looks horrible. This looks like, frankly, it looks like an 8-year-old got a hold of Windows 95's Paint program and designed something. Um, I don't know why they went with this aesthetic with the skin. Hear me out. I'm sure that someone worked hard on this. But rather than doing this, I would rather resort back to how it used to be, where you had solid colored pieces of plastic and that they were just different pieces of plastic that you could take apart. And if I wanted to paint it myself, I could paint it myself. This all looks to be one gigantic piece of plastic, except for these little accent pieces right here. And even then, until you take it apart, you're not going to know. So all of this is one piece. This is one solid piece. This is probably a different piece. This barrel is probably just one piece. Hold that thought. I'll be right back, and I'm going to grab another blaster for you to see it. Okay, so I'm back with the blaster from the old Zombie series this is what I'm talking about. This is the Revoltinator. This is actually my Revoltinator. I have painted it. As you can see, it is not the same green color that it used to be. But all of this was one piece of plastic except for certain parts. For example, this little phone right here, which is where I added my lighting attachment. So that actually lights up there as well. Again, you have the clear plastics that can light up. At nighttime, this looks pretty beastly. Now, you have all of this was molded plastic that I was actually able to paint over. Okay? This right here, separate piece. This handle, separate piece. Separate pieces. This part right here, this barrel, separate piece. This lug, separate piece. So because of that, and even the handle up here, separate pieces, and all of this was a separate piece as well. So because of that, it lent itself for painting and modification purposes, and I personally think that this came out looking okay. Some people say that it looks a little too wild and out there, but given that this is a LARP weapon for a wasteland, you know what? That looks neat. But back to the star of this episode. So that is what I'm referring to when they could have done away with the skin and just left solid pieces. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm not too fond of this. And yes, I could probably go ahead and actually go on a rant about painting, but if you're not going to paint the blaster and you like this, that's on you. That is just me being a purist, so to speak. The thing that I do dig about this blaster, magazine, that's kind of cool. That's just neat. I love the little added details on the magazine. I love the fact that it actually looks like it has metal, like almost like a brace there. The zombie logo on there, that's a nice little touch as well. I guess I should. Yeah, that's the way it is. That is done properly. Okay. Anyways, and the added measure of the gauge right there, that's kind of cool too. I do wish that they would have done a little bit more with this, and again, maybe I might do something with that. Now, I will tell you that this blaster, $24.97. Is it worth the price? You know what? I'm going to say that yes, it is. You know, $25 for a decent bolt-action blaster that's part of the Zombie line that is still new on the shelves. Yes, especially when it has all these little embellishments on it. Absolutely. That's worth the $24.97. Are kids going to enjoy this? Heck yeah, they are. Especially if they're fans of like zombies or anything like that. This is going to be something that a kid will run around and play with no problem. Here's the best part about it. Because of this rail on the bottom, there are a whole bunch of attachments that you can use that are part of the Z-Strike line that you can attach to this blaster and it'd still be fine. So for example, if you have a scavenger, the light, that light looks halfway decent on there. You know, yeah, the yellow's a little bit different, but the orange matches. And if you actually have the twin slice attachment, fit. That fits on there really nicely. So there you have an extra thing that you can actually hold the blaster with, and you have also a melee as well. Or, well, a ranged melee attack, I guess. A non-dart attack range, short range thing. Don't judge me. Anyways, on top of that, of course, you can use any of the scopes that were for the scavenger on here, and it would still look just fine. There are other scopes that are out there that you could utilize. Decent. So that is the things that it has going for it. Now, who is this blaster for? As I said, 8 and up, they're going to love this blaster. Even younger is probably going to be fine with this, I'll be honest with you. You might be able to put this in the hands of a 7-year-old, and as long as you teach them how to prime it properly and not to shoot people in their face, you know what? That should be fine. This is not a powerful blaster, and given the mechanism of this blaster, I don't even have to open it up to tell you that the internals of it are similar to so many things that are out there right now. So this is going to be very similar to a long strike or to the bolt action, the BASR, I should say, of the Fortnite series, or the Storm Scout. So that being said, modifying it, yes, there are options to do so, but you're never going to hit over 100 FPS with this thing unless you do some major modification. Now, that being said, is it going to be fun for teenagers? You know what? Maybe in an HVZ event, if you want to actually do a low-speed blaster, this would be kind of cool. It fits the theme. Human versus zombies, of course. Or if you're an adult and you're playing with the kids around, this will be fun too. I'll be honest with you. I actually enjoy this blaster. For all of its faults aside, I think it is pretty neat. And the offering, again, it is solid. Now, going forward, here's my wish list from the Zombie series. If you're going to remake some of the blasters that you've made already, for example, they've done a remake of the Hammer Shot. They have a quasi-melee blaster, which for the life of me, I cannot remember its name right now, but it's the one that looks like a cut-up baseball bat that shoots 2 darts out the front. I'm going to say it's the knockoff of the Adventure Force Babysitter's bat, because one came out before the other. If you're going to be doing all these blasters and you want to remake it to this new Zombie series, here's Normatico's wish list. Hasbro, Mother May I, please has a modified, upgraded, I should say new Slingfire or a Sledgefire. Something with this new line, something along those lines with that. May I have a new Revoltinator? May I have a Zombie Strife? That would actually be kind of cool. A zombie aesthetic Strife blaster. There we go. Do I need a contractor? No, I do not need the contractor. Do I need any of the other ones that were kind of like the Z-Strike series? Nah, not really. Keep it solid, keep it simple, keep it fun. That's the important part. The Double Strike, that would be a fun one to see in the new lineup. That was actually a very popular blaster. A lot of people love it. They love it as a backup blaster. That's cool. The Side Strike, you guys keep on doing all these skins for it. You know what? Do another zombie one. Maybe actually add some more embellishments to it this time. I think that would look cool. Now, but again, those are just ideas for Hasbro. Whether or not you agree with me or not, go ahead and actually leave something in the comments. Tell me what you would like to see out of the new zombie line. I want to thank you all for watching Secondhand Blasters. This has been Normatico. Until next time, keep on blasting.